Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Crowd Shatter Podcast. It's football season, baby. You know what time it is. You know what we're here for. It's about time. It's about time that we had some real football to watch for the first time all year. I mean, we've been waiting for this, however long now. And you guys all know this is by far the biggest sport that we cover here. And so you guys already know what we're about to do. We did last week for like the five different week zero games, but now we have just a little bit more, and actually some good ones, and we're gonna get into those today. Was going to plan on having actually either Sam or Swerbensky here with me, one or the other. They're both busy. Their schedules do not align with each other very well, so we're gonna have to figure out how we're gonna make that work. Maybe we can hopefully get all three of us here. You guys know it. We're all we're it's three different time zones. We're working with the East, the Central, whatever the Pacific. I don't want to say West, but I think it's Pacific. Um, it's three different time zones. It's very difficult. Um, so we're trying to make it work, but obviously that doesn't necessarily end up working how we had hoped. But anyways, I'm gonna stop wasting time here. Let's just get into this. You guys know how this works. You've been on this channel for long enough. This is basically our version of college game day. It's a little different. We do things slightly different than they do. Obviously, it's not the exact same thing. Um, we start. You know how they always do, like the tail end of their show. They always do their super dogs, and then they'll do their actual, and then just do predictions for different games for that week. Well, we have our own little twist on it. Instead of super dogs, where they just kind of pick someone to cover a line. We call ours shockers of the week, or where we pick a team to just simply pull an upset, and if they win, we get the points of the spread. So, I know what actually everybody's picking for that. I don't have Srebensky's picks for the whole week, but I do have his shocker, so I'll put that in as well as Sam. I do have all of his stuff. I'm going with Hawaii over Arizona. Arizona is actually a 17.5 point favorite, which is kind of wild to me because Arizona was not good last year, and neither was Hawaii. But Hawaii played in week zero, already got the win over Stanford, which I really was not expecting. But also, when you see a 17.5 point line, a team has already played in week one, beat a power four technically now, power four program. Yeah, that power four program sucks, but so does Arizona. So for 17.5 points, it's worth taking a shot. And I'll go on to our next two here. I'm assuming that Sam's going to stick with this one because we were talking about a little bit. But for both Sam and Swerbensky, I'm pretty sure they're both going to go with just the same one. I don't think either one of them are changing it. Both Sam and Swerbensky are actually taking what I was going to take until I realized they both were going to do it too, and that is Syracuse over Tennessee. You guys will know Tennessee no longer has Nico, however you say the guy's last name. Obviously I won't attempt to pronounce that because, well, yeah, it's kind of impossible. um, but he's on his way out. He's transferring to UCLA, so obviously no longer there. Missing a lot of guys as well. Um, just not as nearly as much left in left in Tennessee. That is I believe 13.5 point line, if I am not mistaken. Again, I think Sam is sticking with that as a shocker. I would have to confirm with him. I'm pretty sure that's what he's going with. And then, yeah, Syracuse is a 13.5 point underdog. So you can see why that's where we want to go. So now let's get into our picks for this week, and we start. You kind of probably already knew what we were going to start with. I don't think there was really much of a question when it came to that. And we're starting with, of course, the Wolverines. It's the New Mexico Lobos on the road against the Michigan Wolverines. You know, I think everybody knows what this podcast is picking. We're all Wolverine fans. I don't have to question what everybody is going to be doing for this game. But um, for the Wolverines in general, I did put some notes down for basically everybody. I mean, because this is the first games of the year, so you know, go over some notes for everybody. What's going on, last year's record, all that stuff. What's coming back. So I did put a little bit of stuff down for them. New Mexico was 5-7 last year, and I did a little bit of research for this, so I do know a little bit about some of these teams. Obviously, I didn't go crazy in depth, but I looked a little bit. For New Mexico, basically their entire team more or less transferred or graduated from a year ago. And then they just got a billion guys to transfer in. I don't know if they got like a new head coach or something. That's why they have a mass exodus and a mass amount of people coming in. But that's the New Mexico story. And as for the Wolverines, obviously it's the Bryce Underwood show. He has been named the starter for this game, 7:30 on NBC. Um, we'll see. Obviously, number one overall recruit. You're expecting good things. Lots of transfers are coming into Michigan as well. There's a lot of excitement for the Wolverines. We've lost, some very good defensive players, guys like Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. That kind of sucks. But you still got a lot of, depth on the defensive end. Um, the biggest question for me is going to be Bryce Underwood. If he looks good and he ends up being everything that he has been said to be, you know, I think it's going to be a very good season for the Wolverines. If he doesn't necessarily, well, I mean, there's a lot of hype around him. So if he doesn't end up necessarily being great, might not necessarily be the greatest season. You get my point. Michigan season really, to me, hinges on how good or how bad Bryce Underwood is. Number one overall recruit, like I said, you're expecting good things. Remains to be seen what he ends up doing. True freshman, so could be growing pains. Who knows? Thankfully, our first game is New Mexico, so we can get a lot of those kinks out in the first game before we play Oklahoma in week 2. So there's that. Next up is Mississippi State going on the road to take on Southern Miss. Now, when I did research for this game, I was not expecting to find what I did. Fun facts. These two teams have combined for a whopping 3 wins last year. They literally went last year a combined 3 for 21. I have never seen two teams combine for that little of wins. Only 3 wins between the two of them last year. So, point being made, these two suck. These are not good teams. And honestly, I don't know anything about really either of these two. I'm only taking Mississippi State because that's a Power 4 team. I don't know anything about either, other than the fact they apparently combined for a total of 3 wins last year, which is pretty miserable. And like I said, I don't have Serbenski's picks on here readily available, so I only have Sam, and he picked Mississippi State, so I'll be filling in his as we go along. Next we have my shocker being Hawaii and Arizona. Sam has Arizona over the Rainbow Warriors. As for me, I don't really know what I have for this game. Hawaii was 5-7 last year, and like I said earlier, when I just picked the shocker, they beat Stanford 23-20 in week 0. Arizona last year was 4-8. I really, can Hawaii do it again this time on the road? Not really sure. I picked it for the shocker because it's a big line, but I'll just stay safe and I'll do Arizona to win it here. you kind of expect them to do it. Who knows? I mean, I picked it as the big shocker, but I'll stick with Arizona. So next we have UNLV going on the road to take on Sam Houston State. UNLV had a pretty good season last year. They finished the season at 11-3. Of course, fell to the Ashton Genty show in Boise State in the Mountain West title. Um, Now it's the Dan Mullen era actually in UNLV, and was not a pretty week zero game. They also played last week, and yikes, they nearly lost to Idaho State. Not a good start. And their QBs, of course, ex UVA, ex Virginia quarterback Anthony Calandria, I believe, is his starter. And then they also just happen to have Alex Orji. If you're a Michigan fan, you know who that is. Another QB. For a reason, they have him too. I don't know why. um, and then Sam Houston State, they were actually 10-3 last year. It was year 2 of FBS football for them. They also played last week, lost 41-24 to Western Kentucky a week ago. So I don't know what to make of either of these two. Um, UNLV, I would say, is the better team, but I mean, I'm gonna pick UNLV, but this is not a confident one because I don't have a lot of faith in the Rebels right now after seeing whatever that Idaho State game was. That was not pretty. And Sam actually did take UNLV as well, so he is with me on this one. He is going to go the same way. Um, Next we have Coastal Carolina going on the road to take on Virginia. Sam is going to take Coastal in this one. He'll go with the Chanticleers. Um, Now it will be up to me to make a selection. Coastal Carolina 6-7 the season ago. Virginia 5-7. So very similar records. These two is back of a home and home series. These two played last year. I don't really know what Virginia has. Neither really do I know what Coastal has either. Because Virginia's the home team, I know I'm picking a lot of Power Four teams right now, but I'll go with Virginia. I don't know. I don't know too much about either of them to really have too much of a big pick here. But I'll go with UVA. Next we have Northwestern going on the road to take on Tulane. Northwestern was 4-8 a season ago. Tulane, of course, 9-5, another solid year for the Green Wave. They end up losing to Army in the American title game. You might remember that from last season. Very good season for Army. New QB in Tulane is Jake Ritzloff. If you remember the BYU QB, obviously had the massive scandal and such, which led to him having to leave BYU, and now he's ended up at Tulane. I'm not going to go too much into it. I think Tulane's winning this game. I think Tulane's a better team. Northwestern isn't a awful team, but like necessarily an awful team. But I think Tulane's just a much better team in general. Sam went Northwestern. Really was not expecting that. Okay. Sam's going with the Wildcats. Next, we have number 25 Thursday night game. Number 25 Boise State going on the road to take on USF. Sam actually has USF taking this one, so I think it's the Bulls. USF Bulls. He has them taking the win here. As for me, like I said, Thursday night game. Boise State, of course, you know what you saw last year. No longer is Ashton Genty around. They won the Mountain West, lost to Penn State in the quarterfinal game. Not much you can really do there. Interesting thing now, though, like I said, no Ashton Genty. Their quarterback does come back. He is gone, but their number one target at receiver is no more either. So they definitely have lost some guys. I still think, though, with that QB presence, I think they'll probably be enough to get Boise State by USF. USF was 7-6 last year, so they're not a horrible team, but this is not. I think that Boise State can handle the Bulls. And then we have another Thursday night game here, a rematch actually of a bowl game from last year, being ECU and NC State. Don't know much about either of these teams. ECU did get the better of NC State in that bowl game last year, which got really heated actually. But I can't see it happening twice. And now with NC State at home, I think the Wolfpack will get their revenge and knock off ECU this time, and Sam agrees with me. He has NC State. Next, we have the shockers for both Sam and Srebenski. Syracuse in Tennessee. This is a neutral site game, one of the first actually of 3 half-whack kickoff games. Don't know why there's 3 of them, but there's 3 of them. The first of 3 though. Sam's pick actually is Tennessee, so he went with Syracuse as the shocker, but he'll still take the Volunteers for the actual game itself. Both these teams are dealing with a lot of loss. With Syracuse, pretty much the whole offense is gone. Kyle McCord gone, LeQuinn Allen gone, top receivers and tight ends all gone. Um, Obviously 10-3 last year, but a lot of loss, a lot of guys that got replaced there. As for Tennessee, of course, Nico transfers now at UCLA. He's long gone. Top running back Dylan Sampson's long gone. Top receivers are all gone. James Pierce, the good defensive end, is long gone. So you're looking at vastly different teams here with these two. Syracuse does have Steve like Angeli or something like that, an ex Notre Dame starter who's stepping in for him. So I know that Syracuse has him, but I don't know really what else they have at this point. But I also don't know what Tennessee has. So you're looking at two teams that I feel like this is going to be a very sloppy game because there is just a lot of unknowns for both of these two. I feel like Tennessee has the slightly better pedigree, which is, I guess, why I'll go with Tennessee. But I really have no clue what's going to happen in this game. Neither of these two are really in a great position. They've both been absolutely ravaged by transfers and graduations and all that stuff. So there's just not really much going on for either of them. But I guess I'll go with Tennessee. Then we have Cal and Oregon State next. A former Pac-12 matchup here. Cal finished last year 6-7. I think they lost in the bowl game. Bowl game last year to UNLV. Of course, their quarterback has transferred to Indiana. Oregon State was 5-7 last year, so this is going to be another interesting one. I think this is kind of just throw a dart at the dartboard and see what happens. I mean, Cal had the better record last year, but now the QB's gone. So I don't know. I guess I don't really know who's taking this game. I don't know anything about either team. Like I said, this is a game where it's next Pac-12 game. Sure, I'll give it to the home team. Give me Oregon State. I don't know anything about Cal, but they lost their starting QB, who I guess is at least decent. So I'll say Oregon State wins it. Why not? Sam has taken the Cal Golden Bears. So Cal goes into Corvallis, takes down the Beavers. Next, we have Utah going on the road to take on UCLA. Yet another former Pac-12 game. Sam has taken Utah. Utah last year was a 5-7 team, as was UCLA. But as we've mentioned earlier, when we went over Tennessee, UCLA now owns Nico Imololavo, whatever it is. I can't pronounce the guy's last name. I'm never going to attempt it. You know I kind of did. But with UCLA, I think that alone just makes them a way better team. With Utah, I have no idea what Utah has. UCLA is a home team. Nico is now in town. I feel like I'll make them a little bit better than whatever Utah has. So give me UCLA. I don't know if they'll be that great of a team, but I think that just Nico alone is going to make them significantly better. So give me UCLA to knock off Utah. Next, we have a bit of a mouthful here. The Battle Sports Kansas City Classic. This will be a Thursday night game, which I'm recording this Wednesday, so this will be tomorrow night. This will be Nebraska and Cincinnati. I don't know why. But I don't know why they just decided to do this a random college game between, especially between Nebraska and Cincinnati at Arrowhead. This kind of seems really weird to just randomly pull a game at Arrowhead Stadium. This seems really odd. Anyway, I'm taking Nebraska in this one. Nebraska was a 7-6 team last year. Um, Cincinnati went 5-7. I think Nebraska was the one that I think they beat Boston College in that bowl game last year when they went to the New Era Pinstripe Bowl when they played at Yankee Stadium. So, but obviously it's still the Dylan Raiola show, aka the Pat Mahomes wannabe. But Nebraska's got a decent team. They've been getting better and better each year. I think they can knock off Cincinnati. I think they get the win at Arrowhead Stadium and they start the year 1-0. Sam has Nebraska gain the win the uh, over the Bearcats and gain the win as well. Next, we have one of two very fun Friday night games. Georgia Tech on the road against Colorado. Sam has taken Georgia Tech to get the win against the Buffaloes. As for me, I think this is going to be a really fun game. Like I said, this is 1-2. We're going to get to the other one later. But these are two really good teams. Georgia Tech last year was 7-6, and they pretty much returned the same exact team from last season. And mind you, this is a team that beat Miami, Florida. I mean, Florida State was a bad team, obviously, last year. But when they beat them, that was an upset, and that was a huge win for them. They beat Florida State. They nearly beat Georgia on the road. They beat Miami, Florida. Like this is a team that came up with some nice wins last year. And like I said, they returned essentially the exact same team, mostly the same offense that they had from a season ago. And as for Colorado, 9-4 last year. Shador, Shiloh, Sanders, they're both gone. Obviously, no Travis Hunter either. That was a big part of what they did last season. That's all out the window. And really now, we'll have to see. Colorado today, they announced their starting QB as the ex-Liberty QB who transferred in Caden Salter. He's going to be starting this game. They did get Julian Lewis, a huge freshman hotshot QB, number 2 recruit in the country. But he will not be starting this one. It will be Caden Salter. So we'll see how that goes. But I do like Georgia Tech a lot. I think this team is on the rise. They're getting better and better. And they looked really, really sharp last year. I think that's only going to continue happening. So give me the Yellow Jackets. I think it'll be an entertaining game, but I got the Yellow Jackets getting a nice win on the road and starting off the season well. And next, we have a Monday night game. It's TCU on the road taking on North Carolina, of which, we'll start the Bill Belichick era. So we'll see how this goes. TCU was 9-4 last year. Their QB is back. Their running back is not, and 3 of their top 4 receivers are all gone as well. So bit of some offense to replace for them, but number one thing is back, and that's the quarterback. I'm whacking on that. Josh Hoover returns from. As for North Carolina, like I said, it's the Bill Belichick era, which is kind of weird to say. Like the Bill Belichick era in college. Um, Max Johnson actually does come back. Remember him from last year in the Minnesota game, which, if you're wondering, like normally you see like on Thursday night, there's almost always Minnesota at home playing somebody. And if you're wondering, they actually are playing again this come tomorrow on Thursday. Only problem is this time they're not actually playing anyone any good. They're playing Buffalo. And I was not putting Minnesota against Buffalo on here. So unfortunately, we don't get to keep the annual run of having Minnesota against somebody on Thursday night this time. Unfortunately. Anyway, Labor Day night game here, TCU North Carolina. Gio Lopez, an ex South Alabama QB, has been announced as the North Carolina starter. Not Max Johnson, believe it or not. So I don't know if that's really a good thing for North Carolina here. And as for and obviously Noah Marion Hampton, he's long gone as well. Great running back from last season. And Chriswell, their starter for a good portion of last year, transferred, so they don't have him either at QB. I'm not enthusiastic about North Carolina. I don't even know how the whole, um, Bill Belichick era is going to go here. Um, I'm going with TCU in this one. I think I like the Horned Frogs to get the win here. I'm not, like I said, I'm not enthusiastic about North Carolina. I'm not. I'm not a believer. I gotta see it until I believe it. I don't think this is really going to work, and I think TCU will have more in them to knock off the Tar Heels. Sam actually has North Carolina, so he actually does have the Bill Belichick era getting off to a hot start. Next we have our second Aflac kickoff game. Like I said, there's a couple of them. Virginia Tech and South Carolina, another neutral site game here. This is in Atlanta. Sam has South Carolina getting the win here, knocking off the Hokies. I mean, I do too. Virginia Tech had a decent year last year, but it wasn't anything crazy. I mean, they went 6-7, so made a bowl game, lost a bowl game. Um, South Carolina was 9-4. Lenora Sellers, of course, is still around, which is the QB that everybody's been talking about, and they have and South Carolina still actually has this guy. He's like a insane athlete. If you guys remember, this is a guy that Michigan was trying to get, but unfortunately came up short. Nicholas Harbor, or I think now he does call him Nick Harbor. I think it's Nicholas Harbor or something like that, though. The man's 6'5", 235, and and he was an athlete when he was recruited. At South Carolina, I guess he's apparently right now a wide receiver. So imagine a 6'5", 235-pound human being bearing down on you. Have fun with that. I got South Carolina winning this, though. I just think they're a bit of a better team than Virginia Tech is. Next, we have number 8 Alabama going on the road to face Florida State. Alabama has had a very interesting offseason. Quite normally, you hear a lot uh, from Tuscaloosa. You're normally hearing stuff about what Bama has and what they're doing and stuff, and really there hasn't been much of that. And that's kind of scary when you think about it, considering how good Bama has been for years now. And honestly, no one's really talking about them. Everybody else has been getting all the attention, Ohio State, Texas, Georgia, Penn State, Clemson, even LSU. I mean, pretty much everybody not named Bama is being talked about. And I feel like that's very, very scary for the entire rest of the country. So we'll see what happens here. They were 9-4, of course, last year. Their starting QB for this season will be Ty Simpson. He was a highly, no, shockingly, he was a highly touted recruit. Thing with him, he has been around for 3 years, and this is now his first time, and this is his fourth year. And now he's finally getting his first chance to start. He's been behind Bryce Young and Jalen Milroe for the past several years. Jam Miller, their number one back, is also back from last year. So, of course, is, the all-star Ryan Williams, outstanding freshman receiver from last season. All those guys are back for Alabama. Yeah, they're going to be a good team, obviously. As for Florida State, they're a mess. We'll see if things are better for them this year, but last year was an absolute disaster. They were ranked number 10 to begin the season, and they went a whopping 2-10. DJU was brutal for them last year. He did not play well. And so, obviously, he's moved on. No eligibility left at this point, so he is long gone. So now the QB for Boston or for Florida State is ex-Boston College QB Thomas Castellanos. Remember him from BC? He's a fine QB. Apparently, he was at UCF when Gus Malzahn was still the head coach there, which he is now the offensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator at Florida State. And so we'll see how that goes. Reuniting with his ex-head coach. And just a side note, I'm looking at my notes over here. But just a side note, I looked at like the different transfers that Florida State was bringing in. There was a ton of names. I didn't really feel like going over all of them. But I noticed one that kind of caught my eye, and that was a just absolute beast of a man from USC. And when I mean beast of a man, I just mean he's large. I found this guy is a 6'6", 222-pound wide receiver. I didn't even know that was a thing. But 6'6", 222 pounds, USC wide receiver apparently, Deuce Robinson. So yeah, I'm curious how that goes. Also, like I said, Thomas Castellanos, not a terrible QB, serviceable player. Florida State will be better this year, but it's not going to be better than Bama. I think Bama's just a better team. It will be in Doak Campbell, which I know got a huge renovation as well, but I think Alabama's just a better team here. Nothing against Florida State, but when you go 2-10 at a previous year and you're trying to beat Alabama, you're gonna have a hard time. And so next we have our other very entertaining Friday night game, which is the Auburn Tigers going on the road to take on the Baylor Bears. This will be very fun. For Auburn, Peyton Thorne, QB Peyton Thorne, running back Jarquez Hunter, wide receiver Keandre Lambert-Smith. They've all moved on, but they bring in the OU QB and Jackson Arnold, which was a very high recruit for the Sooners. Didn't end up necessarily working out how Oklahoma was hoping. I think he was like the number 3 recruit for them or something like that. So they were obviously hoping for great things out of him. Didn't necessarily get that. But Auburn is a team that's trying to get things going. 5-7 last year. Program's been through a lot, trying to rebound here. As for Baylor, they were 8-5 last year. Overall solid season. Kind of crazy thing about them, the entire offense is back. They didn't lose anybody. So I think this will be highly entertaining. I think Auburn's going to put up a very hard fight. They're going to make it very tough for Baylor. But I like Baylor to win this one. I think Baylor's a better team. I think Baylor gets to win at home and they knock off. I'm sorry. Yeah, Sam has Baylor. Um, but I'm gonna go with the Baylor Bears as well to knock off the Auburn Tigers. Going to be very fun. Can't wait to see that game come Friday night. Should be an epic one. And then we have our other Sunday night game here and our last AFWAC kickoff game, which is Notre Dame on the road taking on Miami, Florida, one of our three top 10 matchups this week. Number 6, Notre Dame. Number 10, Miami, Florida. Notre Dame, obviously, the runner ups last year, lost to Ohio State. No Riley Leonard. But now, coming in, being the new starting QB for Notre Dame, you'll recognize the last name, Wolverine fans. CJ Carr. You're probably thinking Carr. You're thinking Lloyd Carr. Well, it happens to be Lloyd Carr's grandson. So he's now at Notre Dame, and he is now starting for Notre Dame. First game of the year. The nasty run-to punch of running backs and Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price are coming back for Notre Dame. So that'll be pretty nice to have in CJ's back pocket. And then Miami, Florida, obviously for them, 10-3 last year. Um, Carson Beck now runs the show, coming taking over for Cam Ward. No Damian Martinez. And their entire receiving core is just pretty much gone. Everybody is like either in the NFL or transferred. Like there's no one left there. So kind of curious who. I'm kind of curious as to who or what Carson Beck will be throwing to, but. Consider me just not a believer in Carson Beck. I never really have been. He's a fine QB, but I don't think he's anything to necessarily write home about. Jeremiah Love is just an absolute freak of nature. I absolutely love that guy. And, Jadarian Price, he had way less stats, obviously, than Jeremiah Love did. But that's a good running back, too. And they're a pretty nasty duo to deal with. But Jeremiah Love is just otherworldly. And I think that alone is going to push Notre Dame over the edge. I've said this before. Notre Dame teams make games very sluggish. They make them very slow and kind of painful to watch. They're more defensively minded. But if that's the way they're able to play against Miami and they make it like a slow grind, slugfest type of game, I think this is going to be an easy win for the Irish and they'll take down Miami. As for Sam, he has the Hurricanes getting the win over Notre Dame. He has Miami defending home turf here. And then next we have LSU going on the road to take on Clemson. LSU 9-4 last year. Obviously, most of their offense actually from last year is back. Namely, obviously, top NFL prospect Garrett Nussmeier at quarterback. A lot of people talking about him as a first round pick. And on the other side, well, you have a similar style thing. Clemson went 10-4 last year. They made it to the CFB after winning the ACC title, sneaking themselves in. Lost to Texas. Cade Klubnik is back. QB for Clemson. A lot of no, a lot of the receivers are back as well. Their top running back actually has moved on to the NFL, but a lot of the receivers all return. Klubnik as well being talked about as a first round pick in this coming NFL draft. So this will probably be a game where you're going to see a lot of NFL scouts watching. Curious to probably see what these guys are made of. I don't know who to really take in this one, although I kind of realize I'm on Sam again. Sam has Clemson winning this one, so he has he has the Clemson Tigers. I should say Clemson itself because they're both Tigers. He has Clemson being a better Tiger. There we go. But for me, this is tough because Clemson tends to have both of these teams. LSU is always more offensively minded. This is a team that loves to score, loves to put up points. Clemson typically has a tougher defense. The offense doesn't necessarily always line up, but their defense is typically very difficult. And so I'm gonna it is a home game. I'm gonna give the edge to Clemson here. I think they just have enough in them. It's gonna be a very tight game. I could see it going either way, but I think because it's a home game, I'll give it to Clemson here. I'll have them get their first win of the year. Start off on a high note. Um, Gonna be interesting to see how things go for them, but I'll give it to Clemson. And then we have game of the week, and oh boy, what a game of the week this is. CFP semifinal rematch here. Possibly, more than likely, we'll see these two in the CFP as well this year. Number one Texas on the road against number three Ohio State. What a way to start the season. This is the noon Fox game. They call it the Big Noon Fox game. Texas lost a decent amount of people. Um, However, their number one running back, or I'm sorry, yeah, their number one running back does return. Quintrevion Wisner was their number one running back a season ago. He is returning. And of course, it is the Arch Manning show in Austin. So this will be the debut of Arch Manning as a starter. Obviously, everybody's excited. Texas still has a very nasty team. They have a lot of guys. I mean, obviously, all the excitement really surrounds Arch Manning, and I think that's mainly the biggest reason why they have the number one ranking. Although I did look at the defense. They do have a lot of guys that were very good last year on defense returning as well. So Texas has some serious talent coming back. As for Ohio State, I'm a Michigan fan here, so this is kind of irritating to say, but defending national champs, they beat Notre Dame. Of which, why did it have to be Ohio State and Notre Dame again in the title game? Like, anybody else, please? Thank you. Um, but they both running backs are gone. Mecca Ibuka is gone. Will Howard is gone. So a lot of the offense is out the window, but y'all know Ohio State, they just, replace guys like it's nothing. Uh, Ex-Bama recruit, technically transferred. He never really played for Bama. He just kind of switched his recruit essentially to Ohio State. QB Julian Sayin has been named a starter for Ohio State. They do have a hot shot, really good freshman in Taven Sinclair, but he is not going to be starting. It will be Julian Sayin. Um, don't know who the running back's supposed to be for him, but of course, much like Alabama and their stupidly good freshman receiver, well now sophomore receiver, Ohio State, similar story. It's not Ryan Williams, it's Jeremiah Smith, who's just as good, if not better than Ryan Williams. He's obviously still there. A lot of great defensive players for Ohio State as well, namely Caleb Downs returns safety, also Bama transfer. Um, both of these teams are extremely sharp. They obviously both have absurd amounts of talent. I'm gonna go with the Longhorns here, though. Yes, I am a Michigan fan. Yes, this looks like a very homer pick, but Texas has a lot of great players returning. They're ranked number, like I said, yes, it's Arch Manning. That's partially why they're ranked number one, but it's not they're just ranked number one because they just felt like it. Texas has some serious dudes. Like they got some real dudes on that team. This isn't a joke. This is a very good football team, and so is Ohio State. But I do think Texas has a slight edge here. I think they go into the horseshoe. They knock off the Longhorns and they get their first win of the season. And I think Sam, as I said, I don't have Serminsky's picks. Sam has Ohio State getting a win, knocking off Texas. And that is your picks for week 1. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully we can get more people on here next week, but as I said, our schedules are kind of jumbled. It's really hard to make that work. We'll at least try to get somebody on. I also talked about getting like guests on here each week. That didn't end up coming really to fruition this week because, trying to plan all the different schedules, didn't realize how hard that was going to be. So we'll try and work that out, see if we can get a guest on here each time and, you know, make something happen. But, as of right now, this is week 1. Week 2 will come next. But I hope you guys enjoy opening weekend. Should be an absolute doozy. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to watch. And I'm sure you can't either. So that's it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll have more videos to coming for you as well. But until then, adios, everyone.